What's up, everyone? Tonight we're live with Manny and Yoshi from Modern Reptile. I hope you guys are both having a great night.
I'm doing
Uh,
all right.
Yeah, same. Just ate, so I'm happy now.
Starting off, I just want to tell everyone to support USARK, the United States Association for Reptiles Keepers. They're here to help us, and they even got a nice new Blue Tongue t-shirt Adeline Robinson designed, so it'd be great to look into that. So we'll start off. Yoshi, how's the season coming?
It's going, man. It's going. I'm at 3 litters right now as we speak, and I have at least another couple females that look ready to go. But I did introduce a lot more of my animals outside this year, so I expect them to take some time to acclimate. So anything and any amount is good for me.
How many more did you move outside?
Everything that I have is now outside. All the adults. Yeah, before the year before I did half of them, and I put the other half now, pretty much a couple months ago.
That's what I'm in the process of doing now. Is basically putting everything else
Yep.
outside. I'm not gonna. I'm just building the cages now. I'm not gonna pair them up together just because I have better luck, not just with blue tongues, but with everything. Pairing them up in the cooler times of the year, less likely to fight, less likely to Because okay, okay. She was barking
Do
my
your
head.
thing, yeah. But yeah, to piggyback off of what he was saying, 100%. Like it's better to do it when they're touching going into brumation. When
Okay.
they're touching that part, like yeah, let them cool down, and then that way, as their activity slows down, they're getting familiar with each other without being aggressive. The last thing you want to do is introduce them when they're hot and they're like, "What the, what's going on? I don't know who you are," and then they go crazy.
So of the first half, did you move any of them, or did you keep them all in the same?
What do you mean?
Like switch any pairings? That
Oh, got you. Yeah, there was a couple of a couple of pairings that I moved around, and then there were some of those group that I sold and replaced with other animals for specific projects. Uh, but there was definitely more thought put into it once everything was outside, because the first round of them was like, these are animals that I don't have exact projects for, but I need to test if I can breed them outside. And then, the second go around was like, no, these are the actual projects that I'm trying to work on. Anything that doesn't fit any of the projects that I'm trying to work on is going to move on to somebody else's projects.
so are you downsizing at all, or just maybe all fine tuning?
Fine tuning. And in fine tuning, you do end up sometimes with less animals, but I know that I currently don't want to build more cages than what I have now. I don't really have that much more space. So I'm kind of, for the most part, capped out.
So, what are you fine tuning right now?
Uh,
Then
it's mainly the projects that I'm working on, because I didn't want to have just like, I'm gonna breed more classics. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to, like, these are the projects that I have for the ivories. These are the projects that I have for the dark animals. These are the projects that I have for the red animals. And then I have like specialized projects, and those specialized projects are like crossing some of the like red sunrise stuff with Turner whites. And then I have like hybrid projects for the future of some of the morphs that I'm trying to work on.
chill. Can't be doing that.
Hey, hey, full transparency over here, buddy.
I'm
We
kidding.
got to
Me
move this
too.
thing
Me too.
forward. No, I know. It's the future.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So did you pick up some last year then?
Did I pick anything up last year? No, I don't think the only animals that I ever r- the only animals that I've picked up over the past maybe like 2 years has been from Manny, where he'll be like, "Yo, you need this Swedish line stuff." And I'm like, "Okay." I don't look,
Yeah.
I'm going to be super transparent here. Manny is kind of like my skink daddy. It's just a fact. It is what it is. He is my
I
father
taught
and
him
I am the
everything he
son.
knows.
Yep, that is fact. That is fact.
And have those animals been doing well for you? Because I feel like we never actually talk about. We just
Yeah,
talk shit every time we talk.
yeah, literally, it's yeah. Every time we talk, it's nonsense. But no, the animals are doing well. Uh, yeah, they're doing good. I don't think I'm gonna produce any of that stuff. I don't. You do so good with the Swedish line stuff. I have not produced Swedish line stuff.
It's my best producing animals.
That's
That and the
crazy.
sunrise stuff
Yeah,
by far, like
to
hands
this
down. Like
day.
they kill it. Yeah, they kill it. They make the best babies. They're those animals, from my experience, hold their color better than any other mutation or morph,
Yeah.
color morph that I've worked with. So they're my favorite. I have a lot of them. Basically, most of my collection has either at this point sunrise line or Swedish stuff. And
Very
I
cool.
actually want to do more with the Swedish stuff because it retains its color a lot better. One of the projects I've been actually working on is keep doing red to Swedish, and
Yeah.
I'm noticing that it's not as nice of a or a true red. It's more like a little bit like a reddish orange, but it's definitely some of the animals that I have been, you know, holding its color very well. Because I noticed when I mix stuff with like Turner White or Sunrise, it kind of like can have a tendency to pale out after a few years.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something you've noticed as well.
I
I
mean, yeah. Sorry, I didn't
no,
mean
no,
to
you're good. I was
interrupt.
gonna say I have definitely on some of the like sunrise and sunrise outcrosses I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you, Yoshi?
Um. Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't really had too many long term holdbacks. The only stuff that I've had that I've really kept are the these dark line animals that I'm working on and the Fuego project stuff.
Yeah,
That
how
that's
it's always cool though having some of those animals around. You should, even though sometimes like some of my older stuff is like I'll keep around just because like I was like, dang, I produced this thing like 10 years ago. It's so cool, and it's like it's a great grandfather or something or whatever.
yeah.
What's some of the oldest stuff you have that you've produced?
Man, dude, I don't know.
Like how
I
many
have I have
generations,
the
if you can
original.
guess?
No, not that many generations, dude. I haven't been doing this for that long. You've been doing this pretty much since I was a baby. I mean, you're an OG.
I'm old. Dang it. Oh no.
No, but I have. I mean, I could tell you the oldest animal that I have. I have the original female that I started with. That I
Nice.
do have. Yeah, but I've kept my collection moving around. That's the thing. Like I didn't
Yeah.
want to do kind of like a repeat of what I had done with ball pythons, where just like kept stacking and getting more animals and stacking, getting more animals. I was more like, okay, as this animal raises up, I move along the other animal because I'm kind of stuck on space, and then that's kind of what I was going and doing, and then
Yep,
trying to
that's
buy
your
more.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
your fine tuning that you were just talking about. That's something I
yeah,
kind of started to do, especially with, you know, not being able to export these
hmm
guys. I didn't want as like high numbers. I think at one point I must have had like 120 breeding size
Jeez,
animals.
you are
Yeah.
insane.
So, and
Gee,
then like I would sell like a bunch, and then I would buy a bunch, and then I would sell a bunch, and then I'll buy a bunch. I think by the time I'm done with, I'm building five more of these four tier, no, not tier. What would be the word?
4 row.
Basically, yeah, 4 row cages. So I
Oh,
would have, and I don't want more than that. That's enough. Like I don't need more than that for the blue tongues. That's fine. So that's gonna be a total of um, what is that? I'd have nine of those four. What's nine times four?
nine times
30.
4.
36.
What he
Yeah,
said.
36. So 36 that I could keep up to three in there. That's a lot of animals. That's
That's
like
a lot of
108
animals, bro. Are you
animals.
sure you need that much?
I yes, I do. Well, yeah, yeah, man, I do because there's so many little projects that I'm kind of starting to work with, paying attention more. So my hope is to like kind of what you've been doing is keep getting rid of a lot of the older stuff,
Mhm.
the classics, you know, kind of cut down on all that. I'll still keep a couple, like a group or two of them, just because you know I like to produce classics for like the normal people who just want a pet. You
Yeah.
know, it's a little bit more affordable. But most of that stuff is gonna be I have been selling, and it's I'm gonna keep get you know slimming down on. I have a lot of holdbacks. I did not think from last year. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna hold anything back. I have like 20 something holdbacks.
Yeah. Damn, dude.
You know, so I need the space, but I don't want any more. 108 adults breeding. That's enough. That's more than enough. You know.
Yeah.
Is there anything of the older stuff you think you should keep around though, Manny? Or same with you, Yoshi?
You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I mean, for me, it's mainly keeping like I do want to keep that original female that I got. She's special to me, and I want to keep her for as long as I can. The rest of the animals, yeah, I still see that I'm gonna be moving things around, fine tuning for sure.
Yeah, and most of the stuff I kind of already know what I want to keep cutting down on, and most of this, I'm gonna keep some of these older animals around too, because like some are a little special to me, some are, and some of them are still very nice. It's not like they aren't, they're not a lot of regular classics. I have right out of the gate when I bought animals, I bought some really nice stuff from Ron Kudo. So it's like a lot of even the first generations. It's still very nice till this day. So I'm gonna hold on to those for a while longer.
Yeah.
What about ones that are good to like outcross? Like, for example, for me, I got a classic I got from Canada, and I know you got some of your stuff from Europe, Manny.
Yeah, I got some stuff from Europe. I got a bunch of actually adults from Canada as well. Maybe like a couple years ago. My stuff comes from all over the place, so it's pretty diverse. But for as in for outcrossing, yeah, I'll keep her like the thing is I have some classics that are like better than a lot of Swedish and Sunrise stuff. So those guys are gonna stick around. They're very nice, but they're classics. So
Yeah.
those guys are gonna stay around, and that's why I'm gonna keep crossing with some of the other line bred color mutations, and some of the other true recessive projects as well. I'm gonna get more into those as time goes on, just and hopefully next year I'll be producing some of that stuff myself, visuals.
Yeah, for me, if I ever need to do that, I'm gonna make a call to my friend Manny, and I'm just gonna be like, "Yo, you got anything extra, bro?"
I got you. You want some extra stuff now? I got you.
No, no.
That is the nice thing though about there's a bit of you guys in Florida to pick stuff up if you need it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's nice. We have a big reptile community here. There's a lot of people breeding a lot of different species of reptiles, so it is nice, and it is very nice. I can go and see these animals myself.
yeah, and it is a thing about like trust. I mean, if I were, I remember a little while ago, there's every once in a while you hear, oh, crypto this, crypto that, and those kind of things start coming around again within the different sub communities in this whole thing. And knowing that I have a group of people that I can be transparent with and they're transparent with me, like we can have open conversations and, like I'll trust Manny with any animals, that he wants to move over here and stuff like that. And if we trade anything, having people like that is the best.
Your first mistake was trusting me. I got you addicted to skinks.
That's a fact. That is a fact. Uh,
So then, what genetic skinks would you add next?
Genetic?
Yeah, like would you go albino
Uh,
or
I mean, dude, I'd love to eventually work with the albinos. I'd love to. I mean, honestly, whatever Heather is doing right now, that's like the pinnacle of what we can do here for the most part. Um, everything that they're working on, I'd love to work on it too. That's the reality of it. Um, I don't know exactly when I'll be able to do it, as I'm still, I've been here in Orlando a little bit over 3 years now, and I still feel like I'm establishing myself, and the animals are still establishing themselves as I've done different things like keeping them outdoors and all those things. So, still a little bit a ways away, but I know that it's likely for those things to start coming in to
Yeah,
cycles.
you just need. Don't worry. When Daddy Manny starts producing them,
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like, hey man, you want to throw one of those over here?
bro, Bro, hopefully I see Heather and Ron killing it, and it's just getting me excited. I
Dude,
actually picked
how?
up some of those pos hets last year.
Yeah.
I didn't pair them up because I like to wait 2 years
Yep.
for my animals to start, to start breeding them,
Yeah.
and hopefully I'll get lucky. I have that that albino Maruki that
Yep.
produced last year. That those babies are gonna be ready to be paired up this season. And then one of the females he's been put to, which is a one of the patternless. She looks very gravid, but
Yeah.
no babies there. Just holding my breath until hopefully she pops, and hopefully those would be double heads, and then in two
Yeah.
years put those together. And so there's a lot of cool stuff that's going to be coming out, and it's going to be much more readily available, especially the way that Heather and Ron are producing those albinos.
How many did they
It's going
produce? They
to be
produced like 10 already this year. That's
it's
crazy.
crazy at least, and then you get the heads and all that stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's going to be a lot of cool stuff.
I'd like to get heads. I'd like whenever, if ever they're available at a price point where I feel comfortable. Heads is kind of the direction that I would go. I'm not personal, like I'm not too comfortable dealing in out of just my own experience with like turtles and some of the ball
Mm-hmm.
pythons. I kind of feel a little bit iffy on possets myself. Uh, I it's especially because I'm very limited on space, so I rather wait until I feel comfortable enough to get heads.
Yeah, yeah. It's always, especially with the pos hats, it's a risk with any animal.
Yeah,
But that very expensive possible head, and if it doesn't prove out, now it's just like a normal skink that's not worth anywhere near what you paid for it. But it's part of
yeah.
the risk. Part of the reason actually I really like this stuff, and I wanted to jump into. I did jump into it. I don't know how many they sold, but I know I was like one of the first ones to get their stuff.
Yeah.
And I do this. This is what I do for a living. This is what gets me up, out every day. It's like I was like, I might as well jump in on this stuff. Obviously at a reasonable price. You always got to be comfortable with the prices. I don't like
Yeah.
to overpay for things, but I think I got those animals at a very fair value. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna jump on this. This is what I want to do. I want to take skinks to the next level. Ryder and Ron are kicking my ass on that, but I want to be up there with them too. So
Yeah.
this is what I really really enjoy. So
Yeah.
I have the ivory stuff. I have a couple morphs here, and I want to add more. Hopefully, I'll produce some albinos next year, and
Mhm.
hopefully they'll give me access to maybe melanistic and other mutations, and just keep going on from there.
Yeah. I need to get a female ivory because both of my ivories are males. So the first litter that I produced, they're all head ivories, and there's a couple animals that I'm going to keep. But
Mhm.
now that project, because I only wanted to breed that ivory with that specific female, and the other ivory is for another specific female. So once I get baby out of those, I'm like, I don't know what to
Mhm.
do with them at that point. I need to get a female so that way I can at least start producing ivories while I'm waiting for those other products that I went to outcross to get like hets until they get to
Mhm.
size.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I did last season. I don't think any of those. I don't think I'm producing any ivories this year. They don't look gravid. I kept three ivories myself, and it ended up two males, one female.
Hmm.
So I produced them last year, but I sold them. I wish I should have. I regret it. I wish I would have kept some. I ended up keeping three heads, 100% heads from an
Mhm.
ivory to Swedish, because I want to see if like maybe breeding into these really nice high color animals, they can keep some of that color. Because I have noticed some of the ivories do keep some color. Even some of
Mhm.
mine, it's very faint. Whoops, it's
Yeah.
very faint, but it's there. So I'm like hoping with like some line breeding, or some selective
Yeah.
breeding, they can have that like color in there with some contrast and stuff. And I also picked up a couple heads from I think Industries. So I have like six heads, 100% heads that are gonna be paired up this season as
Nice.
well, on top of my three visuals. So
Very cool.
What
yeah,
about the one that got a couple spots on it that was like getting more with age? Have you followed up on that one, Manny?
not too much. To be honest, just at one time, we kind of asked for some pictures and stuff. It's very cool. Who else knows what's really in some of these animals? I know. I think they're out in California from some head ivories produced in anery. So that
Yeah,
stuff might be mixed in there as well. And some of these ivories do look pretty different. You know.
Yeah.
yeah,
So there might be some other genes in there that are mixed in there that we don't know about that we're just that might, so
yeah. I mean,
so
dude,
yeah.
I showed you a picture of one of the head ivories that I produced, and like we were talking about how like some of them just look extremely light. Like one of the animals I
Mhm.
produced is not an anery, but it almost has no melanin.
Yep, I
Stuff
Well,
produced
like
a
that.
couple of those from my Swedish to ivory as well. They're very very light. It's really
Yeah.
strange, and then some of them keep paling out as well. um
I
the
think
other heads
that's
that I
just
have aren't really like that. Sorry.
talking with some of the Australian breeders. Some of them seem to like it's that pretty much the head influence lighting them pretty much, and the polygenics we're adding in it might be fighting it. Why some aren't,
Hmm.
Mm,
especially some of the ones we got to have a bit of melanin in them.
yeah. And
Yeah, and but I've seen the ones from the industries that I got are they look normals. They don't look they they might be a little slightly lighter, but they're classics. So it's really weird some of like the variations that I've seen on these heads.
yeah.
Like one I got, and it might be if my other one's a gene, a double head. It's almost solid white now, and
Mm.
it's
Which
not a
which one?
visual. What's that?
One of your heads? Head ivories?
Yeah, well, white northern technically, but same shit.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
We don't gotta lie.
Well, that was the line it was, but yes.
Yeah.
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 So, what percent like polygenic and genetic are you guys thinking? Half and half, 60-40, or haven't thought too much about it?
What do you mean?
Like, of your overall blue tongue collection, like, you want to
Oh.
have half of it towards genetic projects?
Oh, and then the
I
other
want this stuff like yeah, you go
no,
ahead.
well, I was processing what you were saying. So you're saying like how much of it is just going to be strictly polygenic, how much of it is strictly going to be like genetic?
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, you'll probably have
Um,
some
I think it
mix
depends
between.
on the project. I think it depends on what it is that you're trying to work on. Um, like obviously you'd want to like if I had albinos, you for sure would want to put them with dark stuff. Where we know that that's going to bring out more white and more purples potentially out of the albinos. Now when it comes to the patternless stuff, I would personally want to like put my fuego stuff to the patternless because I want to introduce all of that red into a skink with no pattern. So it would just it's a like a case by case thing. It's about having the animals the polygenic availability and being able to throw the actual our actual morphs on top of that.
I agree 100%. You took all the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, I did.
Do you think there's a benefit in putting like much pitch black in the toffee, or with the hypers being pretty much patternless, not worth it?
No, I'd still work that pitch black stuff. I think that that's unique in its own right. Um, Actually, the het ivories that I produced was an ivory to one of my darkest animals. And I know that some people might think, oh, but you're just going to produce the white animals. And my thought process was, I was like, yeah, but if I can get some of these ivories to have a little bit more contrast, or on the other end, if I'm not mistaken, in Australia, when you mix an ivory with the hypermelanistic, you get like one of those like platinums or something like that. And so if I'm like, oh, maybe some gray or some silver comes out of the animal, it's like you got to be able to play with it and not just play with the rules, not just because like, oh, well, this is probably what's going to happen. Like, no, like mess around with some of these things.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
100%. And that's how I feel a lot about, that's how I'm kind of doing some of these things. But with going back to that pitch black and hypermel to the ivory, I think it might give it like maybe even some spots, kind of like that one that I sold a while ago, that ivory that started getting spots. Maybe something like that can happen. I don't think it would do a similar thing to the melanistic because we kind of see how the pitch black albinos look versus the melanistic albinos or the lavas. It's a completely different look.
Mhm.
So I think it would have a completely different look to the platinums, which are the
Yeah,
ivory melanistics.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that makes tons of sense. You know, the black's gonna fight the white and gonna have the bleed through or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, because like with these pitch black, like they gain black, right, with age, while or melanin with age, while the
hmm
melanistics are just born pretty much melanistic. Some have some more red than others, whatever.
yeah,
That
and
might be actually really interesting. I'm gonna steal your
yeah,
idea. The because that might because with the because like I said, it kind of gains melanin almost like an IMG, and that's
hmm
actually how I've been thinking about it a little more than since I kind of got into some red tail boas over the last few years. I kind of been thinking of that pitch black like that, and then why I think it pairs so well with the albinos, just like albinos and IMGs with red tail
hmm
boas, you get a lot of funky stuff. So I wonder if with an ivory pitch black, it could also do some funky stuff because one is kind of taking, because they're born
yeah,
kind of normal and they shed, they get whiter and whiter, while the other gene, the pitch
hmm
black line stuff, is gonna add melanin. I wonder.
yeah.
All
I
right,
think
man.
that
Thank you.
one of the benefits of not just working with blue tongues, originally with me it's just turtles, but eventually I got into ball pythons and I took some of this ball python knowledge into my blue tongue projects, understanding the genetics of the ball pythons, and you're going to mix this with this because of these kinds of traits, and then you're going to be able to play around with it. And what I saw specifically with the ivory, and why I thought ivory was a fitting name for that skink, was because it reminded me of an ivory ball python, because the ivory ball pythons, they're primarily white, but they do have some yellow, and depending on what you add to it, like if you throw in leopard, which is a pattern mutation that is also high contrast, so the blacks are really nice. And when you mix that with the ivory ball pythons, you can start seeing some pattern come out of the ivory. So whenever I'm working these blue tongue projects, I'm letting my existing ball python knowledge and just knowledge about some of these genetics, give me guidance towards what I'm trying to work on with the way that these blue tongues look.
On just random on the ball pythons, are you downsizing on those, or are you gonna keep them?
I'm definitely gonna keep. I'm mainly keeping the projects that I'm trying to work on. I had more than what I needed, and more than what the market demanded. So, and it was like one of those things again. It's like, why do I want to keep producing quote unquote classics? Why do I want to be pairing, ball pythons just to produce more ball pythons? It's like, no, like I know the specific projects that I want to work on. That's what I'm going to do. And though I'd love to be in a position where I do it like do this for a living. It's just what I was doing before producing more ball pythons was almost not sustainable in the way that I was doing it. So now, again, refining it. Everything about me right now is about refining and consistency. Those are my two big goals right now with everything I'm working on.
Have you guys noticed like pretty consistency outside? I know it's harder for you, Manny, this year being nothing's went yet, but
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed not necessarily better percentage, though it has been. What I've noticed more is like some of these males and females that have been inside, paired up 2 or 3 seasons in a row, not producing for me. Now all of a sudden producing, and then also, I am averaging some bigger litters than before. Before I'd
Mhm.
be like 7, 8 to like 10 more average. Now, I can't go off of this season yet, but last year, it was more like 10 to 12. So it's a little bit bigger. And then the biggest difference was with the babies. Like, rarely did I have litters with like, kinked babies. I only
Mhm.
actually really had one that had that issue, and that was kind of pitch black to pitch black. And that's probably what it was. And I separated that pairing already. But but yeah, and then stillborns and slugs. Like I barely found any. I didn't think I found any stillborn. And then slugs, like I had one or two females give some slugs, but that's really about it. Unless they ate it
Yeah.
like before I got to it, but I'm checking every day. So like that's where I've noticed the biggest difference because there'll be some points where it's like the last 4, 5, 6, all of them slug out. And you're like, why is this happening? Or stillborns, like
Yeah.
10 stillborns. And I just did not experience that last season. And hopefully, I don't experience that this season.
Yeah. I'd second exactly what you said. I'm seeing healthier production in general for sure.
And then you sent me this picture earlier. You mentioned that it seems like they're even kind of holding babies different, which I thought was odd.
Yeah.
I don't know if
That
I
animal is round.
That's yeah. I think he just ate a
Yeah.
big burrito.
Yeah, dude. And that like and she has and that's the thing, like, you're checking I've found that keeping the animals outdoors, I'm checking them a lot more often than I would when they were indoors. And that animal's not really eating or anything right now, so I really do think she's pregnant. I don't think that she's just like obese or anything like that. She looks pregnant to me. And I've noticed like some of my females are holding their weight like that. One of the animals that produced a litter that I produced this week looked pretty much like that also. And all the babies came out really healthy, really strong. Yeah, it's
I
a
have
different
a
thing.
question for you
What's up?
because it's something that I've noticed as well. Because before I would get, especially the females, when they're starting to get to late term pregnancy, you know
Mm,
how they just drain, their tail just drains of everything they have. I would
mhm.
have a good amount of females tails kink, right?
Okay.
I haven't noticed that I didn't notice that last year at all.
I haven't
Like
noticed it
not,
either.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
So I think
I
there
think
was
that
deficiencies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think that the animals to get the natural sun and stuff like that helps them metabolize a lot of the nutrient, a lot of the vitamins and stuff like that. And I think that that's giving them a complete benefit. Yeah.
Do you guys notice them eating much like random insects at all?
They could be.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
this I don't see it, but
Yeah.
I'm sure
I
there
I have
are.
noticed it. Yeah, I've noticed it for sure.
Yeah, cool. Because we
Because I
got what
know,
are those palmetto bugs or those
Yeah.
roaches? They're out there, man. They're out there, and I hope they're eating them. I see
yeah,
them
I
in the
know.
cages. The thing is, we have so many animals, so it's hard for me just like sit and just stare and just like, oh look, you ate a bug. I'm just like doing stuff, kind of quickly. So it's like I've never noticed it. I've never. I think I've only seen animals breed outside, like my blue tongues, maybe a handful of times,
Mhm.
like 2 or 3 times, something like that. Like
I
that's
haven't
it.
seen
And then
I haven't seen the breeding like I've seen them perform breeding behaviors like the male
mhm.
tried to like start performing for the female, but I
Yeah,
haven't seen them actually lock outside.
yeah, I might have seen that like just twice or something,
Yeah.
something extremely low. I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. Outside,
Yeah.
they're just doing it on their own. I see the marks, obviously like
Yeah,
the shoulder, the
exactly.
tail,
Yeah.
and something I actually was kind of made me think when I was talking to Ron Kudo the other day. I wonder how many times they're locking. Like I'm very curious. Maybe
Yeah.
just like times they're locking, because when we would breed them in the racks, it'd be like, oh, we got to get at least 3 locks. Oh, and then there's years I did one or two, and that was it.
Yeah.
Some females only needed one lock, and then they don't want to breed ever again, and then it's like they produce. All they needed was one. Some need like
Mhm.
5, and then they don't produce anything.
Yeah.
So I wonder how many. Have you? Is that something you thought about?
I have thought about that, and I wonder if the fact that we're keeping them either in pairs or in groups, the males have a better time of like sussing out or just like feeling when the female is ready, kind of thing, and then that's when he's
Mhm.
trying to breed her. Something either
And
with pheromones or something like that. It's kind of just like it's in the air, and they
and
go for
one
it.
of
Because the thing is,
the
when we're sorry, real quick, when we're
no, go
breeding
ahead.
them
Yeah, sorry.
the way that we were breeding them in racks, what we're trying to
Hmm.
do is replicate the amount of times we can get them to lock and hope that we catch the female at the right cycle based on the behaviors that we see. It's not about the animals both being ready for each other. It's about our behavior reacting to their behavior. Now the animals, in essence, we're farming these animals because they're gonna act as they need to in the quote unquote wild and in our outdoor enclosures.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I 100%. And then I just wanted to say like a reason because I could have done pairs I mainly did that because I know how aggressive these male breeders can be. Just harassing a female.
Yeah.
So like I like the fact that there's multiple females. Then he
Yeah.
can go after one, then he can go after others, so one doesn't just get overly abused.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but one of the downsides to the multiple females that I noticed is that the females can get nasty with each other, and it's not even. I rarely ever see issues with the male to the females or the females to the male. Definitely a little bit more towards the end, because they
Hmm.
probably just want to get away from everyone and everything because they're just like ready to give birth. But these females they can be gnarly with each other. And then the ones I have, because I have some certain projects that are just in pairs, no problems. They don't give each other like I don't have like missing toes, missing foot, tail tip, none of that stuff.
Hmm.
Not even like too much like what is the word? Like not scarring, but just some bite marks
Nips.
of like around the face and stuff.
Hmm. I've only noticed bite marks on the face on my males. So, and the way that I've been seeing that is I've been seeing that as the female is well into her process as far as like pregnancy, and that is whenever the male gets closer, she's like, "Yo, leave me the fuck alone." And the couple of animals that I've noticed that in, I've noticed that the female gives birth like right around the corner, like it happens soon after.
Hmm.
Like the head ivories that I produced, literally, like I noticed the male with a couple of bite marks, and I was like, oh man, like, and then I started to think to myself, I'm like, do I need to separate these animals? Like they were getting along fine, whatever, whatever. I let it go for about a week or so, and then babies. Yeah, and it happened again
Do
with the
you
ones that I
have you thought
collected this
about
week.
have you thought about potentially separating the male during like around this time of the year when they're giving birth and stuff? Is that something you thought about, or maybe separating them and then reintroducing them, when it's breeding season?
I definitely have thought about it, but that's one of those things where it's like it's not a decision to make yet because I'm still trying to really figure out my groups and making sure that they're established. Because the ones that don't produce this year, I plan on switching stuff up. So I'm like, let me
Yeah,
see if
and
I can get some things established where they're like readily producing, and then figure out at that point what works for which animals. I've
yeah, it's
even
just something I ask because
yeah.
I've noticed in other species, not all of
Mhm.
them, but some other species, like when you keep them together, the males tend to get lazy because they're
Yeah.
just like, I got this. This is around all the time. Like I don't need to put in work.
Yeah, I mean,
So that's
tortoises can be like that.
yeah, exactly. And I
Yeah.
had that problem with my redfoots.
Mhm.
Actually, so I had to throw in some extra males, give them some competition or something.
Yep.
But yeah, it's something I've been thinking about. But same thing as you. It's like This is only what is this? My second season. This is gonna be my
Yeah,
second season
outside.
keeping them
Yeah.
outdoors. So I'm kind of like playing with it, kind of playing with the idea of maybe that will give a better yield, because the males will be
Yeah.
like separated from the females all year, and
Mm.
so
I even noticed Heather and Ron this year, they've paired they paired stuff outside of the cages. And I'm like, I would assume that that's like the specific projects. Like they want to make sure that they hit on albinos. They want to make sure that they hit on their patternless, their bubble gums and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
even that's something that I've considered. Like maybe I do that next year for the animals that I for sure need to go. But luckily, like those animals, like I just wanted the fuego stuff to go this year. That's like was the biggest thing, and both of my females went. So two thumbs up.
nice.
Yeah.
I did
so
that with the albino, with the visual
Uh huh.
albino I have. And she does not look gravid, unfortunately. I don't think so, but you know how it is sometimes they'll not look
Yeah.
like it and there'll be like four babies. Like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
But that one and then the patternless to the albino Maruki is the one that I did one on one because those are special projects. I want to make sure that the babies are from there. Because one of the problems I haven't run into it, but one of the problems you can run into is like if both the females give birth the same day.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know what's from who's from who.
Yeah.
So
What if you guys redesigned the enclosure some so you didn't have to remove the males, or the ones you have two females? That way they feel a little more secure and don't fight. Or is it not possible?
I think that it wouldn't give the animals enough space.
Okay.
Yeah. If
something that I've noticed that you could do. I was gonna ask you this as well, Yoshi.
Mhm.
Some of my cages, for some reason, are overgrowing with plants, right, with weeds.
Okay.
And those cages, those animals have a ton of visual barriers because it's just like loaded in there, right? While there's other ones that are pretty bare and they seem to have more. There seems to be more aggression, which makes sense versus the one with that are overgrown. So something actually I'm doing with these new cages is I'm planting plants in there already. So by the time they're out there, it should be heavily planted. I don't know if that's
Mhm.
something that's happened in your enclosures, where some have some plants, and then you've noticed maybe
No,
it does better
so
than the other.
I wish that more grass grew in my enclosures. I think that so in the part of my yard where I have the animals, it gets sun like the whole day. So I
Hmm.
like that whole side of the yard, there's no grass. So
Mm.
my grass there doesn't grow. But I've been needing to. I would like my enclosures to look a little bit nicer because I mean, for the most part, they're right now they're cypress mulch mixed with sand and then wooden
Hmm.
ramps, a hide, and a cinder block. Like I would like
Yeah,
for them to look a little better than that, more presentable.
yeah. Just come by, grab some of these weeds. They'll grow in
Yeah,
direct
dude,
sunlight. They
yours
grow
look
in direct
yeah.
sunlight here.
Every time that I see your enclosures, I'm like, fuck, dude, like that's how I want them to look.
But it's so wild that like like this set of four cages to the right grow a ton, and then to the left of it nothing.
Yeah. Yep.
It's so annoying. So it's
Those are the
like I'm
ones that
just
you have
gonna
to put pothos and monstera, like low light plants, just like throw those in there.
yo. That's actually pothos is one of the plants I'm putting in all the new cages, and
Yep.
I'm actually trying out sand this
Hmm.
time instead of mulch. Mulch kind of I have a love hate relationship with mulch.
Yeah.
But I'm actually doing this. It was free, so I got a ton of sand. I think
Yeah,
it's
I saw
like
you digging it.
it's sweet, right? It's
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
colors. They're gonna be dirty, but it looks straight out of Australia. And
Yeah,
when it
dude.
like rains, it can get like they can build like structures and stuff. It's really sweet. I'm really
Yeah.
excited for it. I'm like, damn, I want more. And the plants
Yeah.
have been growing great in there because it's like rich in iron. That's what kind of gives it
Mhm.
that color. And the
Got
plants
you.
have been they've been growing. It's crazy how overgrown some of these already are. And I was like, I just did this like two
Yeah,
weeks
yeah, yeah.
ago.
How deep
So
is
I
the
mean,
sand?
um, it kind of varies per cage, but it should be at least 6 inches because it reaches around.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, at least
Average.
6 inches, I think. Yeah, it kind of like as it rains, it kind of will flatten out a little bit on one side, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like terrain almost. It's not perfectly flat, and I kind
Mhm.
of like that. Kind of like that, like those changes and stuff. And but yeah, I try to at least keep a few inches so they can burrow, and then it goes under that as well. Like there's a screen mesh and it's kind of off the ground, but the sand goes all the way through it.
Mhm.
So like, there's nothing can really get out.
Yeah.
Have you had any drainage issues at all, Yoshi, or is yours pretty good too?
No, mine is pretty good because the ground at my house is like sand,
Okay.
so I don't get any flooding. So I yeah, it's the drainage is pretty much perfect, and only half of their enclosure would get rain because the other half is covered by I always forget what it's called, but it's kind of like the greenhouse roof type of thing that it looks like a shutter, but it's like clear. So I cover that on half of their enclosure. So that
Is it
way,
like kind of like
yes.
goes like this?
Yep, 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 yep.
Yeah, I
So
have
that
that
way when it
same.
rains, they have an area where for sure it's going to be dry. I wouldn't want them to have like full coverage of rain.
So say someone's, lives in Florida and they wanted to design an outdoor enclosure for whether a keeper or a breeder. What
Mhm.
size do you think, the 3x6, or
I would say the smallest would be 4x2.
what about ideal for like 2 to 3?
The largest cage that I have right now is 5 foot by 3 foot for a group of like a male and two females. Anything smaller than that, I'll just do a pair personally.
Yeah, and if you can go bigger, that's my advice to everybody. If you can go
Yeah.
bigger, man, go bigger. The more space you give these guys, especially in groups, the better they do.
Yep.
Like I remember back in the day, there was this guy out of Texas who used to keep them outside most of the year, and he would just like do these giant pens, kind of like
Mhm.
how some of those Australians do with like the water dragons, and all that stuff mixed in there, kind of like that. And that stuff is great, man. If you have the space, and you can keep these guys, they're a little bit more cold tolerant than you think. You can keep
Mhm.
them out in a lot of different areas. Maybe not all year, like kind of like we do. I didn't bring my animals in not once. We got pretty cold. We got in the low 40s a couple times, even and with some rain sometimes. But
Yeah.
when it rains and it's cold, I cover the cages so it doesn't get wet because that's where it gets dangerous, the cold and wet.
Yeah.
But yeah, like these guys can they can get they can get abused and they'll be fine. They
Yeah.
do very, very well.
Yeah. The only time that I brought the animals in was if I knew that I wasn't going to be getting sun for a couple days. If it was raining and it was wet and there's no sun for a couple days, that's when I would bring the animals in. Just because I didn't, even if I was covering them, I just didn't want. I didn't want to risk it at that point. But I get colder than you do down there,
Yeah.
so that's the thing. Like we can have like the hottest temperature in the day will be like 45 for like 3 days because there's no sun,
Mhm.
so
Have you
at
ever went out there and temp gunned it though when it's like that on like
yes.
where they would bask and stuff? What and how hot did it get?
Well, on the days where it's no sun, it's pretty much the ambient temperature.
Yeah.
But on the days that I do get sun and the ambient temperature is supposed to be in the high 40s, low 50s, like yeah, like it gets their basking areas is perfect for them. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I just get weird with the rain. I bring the Brettles in for the same thing also. The Brettles
Yeah.
pythons. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that. I did not. I just covered it and honestly, that I do like a thick. I forgot how exactly thick it is, like a thick plastic to cover the entirety of the
Mhm.
cages.
It's like
Did
the one that they
fine.
put on the floor when you're painting.
Exactly,
Yep.
exactly. But like a thicker one, not like the
Yeah.
really, really thin ones, because those
Mhm.
you look at them too hard and they break. Yeah, I've already went through with those, but I did that for a lot of all my animals. I didn't bring in anything this year.
Yeah.
Obviously outside of storms and stuff, but
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, and they all did fine. They all handled it fine. Um, I didn't have any issues, and maybe that's why mine are also later this year than normal because it was a longer winter, Florida winter. We
Mhm.
had cooler. We still had some cool days and nights in April, I think.
Yeah.
You know, so like maybe that's why they're. But I used to be in a rush, like, oh, I need to be one of the first ones out because
Yeah.
you get all that new, all those people who've been waiting for baby skinks, that market. But
Yeah. And I mean,
nah, I don't
in
care.
reality, like when I was breeding them in racks, yeah, it would benefit to breed them earlier than everybody else because people
Hmm.
they would almost always sell out at least halfway halfway or the majority, but like none of that for me personally is worth it compared to the way that we're keeping them now. Like it's such a different experience and clearly it's benefiting the animals.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
and that's more important than anything else. Now, like, it's just yeah, whenever they do, they do.
Yeah.
So
I feel the
hopefully
same.
tomorrow. Some of those girls, man, they should be popping. I'm like, how are you still holding? Like hips are
Mhm.
drained, they're thick.
Yeah. They
Oh
look like
man,
a
and I'm just
sausage.
like, bro, how are you? Just let it out, please.
Yeah.
The one downside though to those like heavily planted enclosures is finding babies. Oh my god. It's so hard. I'm sure they love it. I'm sure they love all the hiding. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like,
And then
my god.
for me, I have to, because I'm a little guy. I have to walk inside of the enclosure, so I also have to be careful not stepping on anything.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I always press the ground first because sometimes there's some parts of the mulch that gets really hard and they can't burrow, but there's other
Mhm.
parts you'll find like a soft pocket. You're like, oh my
Yeah.
god, is anything in there? Please no.
Yeah.
Well, worst case though, you guys got a bottom and everything that will eventually come out for the food.
Yeah. But you wouldn't want, like, I
At
worry
least
about like
hopefully.
a really, really hot day that if they don't find access since they're so young to the water, like on a really hot day, I'd hate for like a baby to like burn or like stroke out kind of thing.
Yeah, but
That makes
they
sense.
normally do. I don't think I've had that issue. And there's sometimes where we go away for a show or something, or not a show, like well, did we go away for? Because I remember there's a few times where I was gone for a couple days, and
Yeah.
then they might have been born as soon as I left, and they would be there for a few days, and they're fine. I do like right now. I do like to keep. I'm putting up some like it's the bottom of the Zoom Ed screen enclosures. I had a
Yeah.
ton of those extra
Mhm.
after the tornado because all those cages got destroyed. So I had like a ton
Yeah.
of those. So I just like put those on top on the front area of the cages. So it's like it provides more shade because it's really hot right now.
Yeah.
It is really hot. So they shouldn't have that problem. Because do you try to like block some sun like during this like time of the year when it's
Uh,
really really hot?
no, so similar to so in the area where I have it so that way the rain doesn't hit, right, with
Mhm.
that greenhouse thingy. On
Mhm.
top of that, I have a Home Depot sells like what's supposed to be used as like an awning or some kind of shade for your backyard. They sell it
Mhm.
in like beige, green, and black. The green one is like the middle point with how much UV it like retracts, if that's the right word for it. Probably not, but whatever. English is my second language. um but yeah, so I put that on top of that greenhouse thing, so that way it acts not only as a rain deterrent but also like as a shade, so that since I get so much sun, there's always places where the animals are going to be getting shade, and they could always dig in the different hides. I offer a couple different kinds of hides, and obviously they dig on their own in the cypress.
How big are your water bowls? Because it wasn't really a problem, but like, and this year I put bio balls in there, but like I have good sized bowls, and
Yeah,
like the babies get
getting
in there,
algae.
and I had it happen where they actually
Oh,
drown in there. Yeah,
got
I
you.
lost like 2 or 3 babies last year, and I found quite a few more in there, like not being able to get out, but just like
Yeah,
like this, and he's like, oh
yeah.
god, thank God I found this now. But
I
this year
like
now I put a bunch of bio balls,
Yeah,
so.
I like the ceramic. I like the ceramic bowls, either
Hmm.
the smaller 16-ounce ones, or the one that's like 6 inches and just a little bit deep.
Hmm.
And I always put that close to like a part of their enclosure where I know water's gonna drip in it, and because it rains so much up here, like I the water's almost never empty.
Hmm.
Yeah, just out of like rain hitting it, like once a week I'll go and I'll clean out the thing, and but
Right.
since I use those like things that aren't so deep, I haven't had any issues.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, if someone say lived in Texas, do you think it would be beneficial to have a bigger water bowl since it doesn't rain as much, or maybe even set up sprinklers periodic? Or
Or
You
hose
could
it
set up
yourself.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like you could set up sprinklers, but the main thing is just like if you're checking the animals as often as you should be checking them, like you'll know when the water bowl's empty, so just fill it up.
Yeah, and then sometimes if it hasn't rained in a few weeks, just hose it down a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, on a really hot day that I work outside, usually Sundays are my big maintenance day for my ponds. So usually on Sundays, if it's not looking like it's gonna rain, I missed all of my enclosures, all of the blue tongues enclosure, just because I'm like, I'm hot, you're probably hot too. Here's a little bit of
Hmm.
humidity. Yeah,
Yeah, and they'll handle it very
yeah,
well, man. what do they say like on Google, like 40 to 60? They can handle
Yeah,
more. They're northerns, man. Northerns are they're tough.
yeah,
All blue tongues in general, except Halmaharas.
yeah.
I think part of that though too, like if it was that humid inside in a trapped enclosure for a northern, they're gonna start getting like mold and stuff build up.
Yeah. Yeah,
Where
just
Yeah, there needs to be airflow. You
yeah,
know.
exactly. I think that that's the thing that herpetoculture is really paying attention to nowadays, and over the past few years, has been like, yeah, like we are trying to hit these parameters based on like this care sheet only because of the enclosures that we're using, but they're not the reality of what the animal can handle. It's because of the limitations that we are giving ourselves. If we're able to mess around a little bit more, like with airflow and stuff like that, then we understand better how much these animals can actually handle.
Yeah, and we were always taught blue tongues, you got to keep them at 90, 95 degrees, maybe 100. These guys will bask at 120.
Oh yeah,
They love it. But obviously you can't have the whole enclosure at 120.
of
At
course.
120 in Iraq is real hot,
Yeah.
So
And
you got to
sometimes
like
you'll notice like only a part of their body is basking. Sometimes it's just the back part of their body and their whole like first half is dug in the ground. Yeah.
are either you guys gonna add like any of the xanthic halms to try to mix in outside or
Maybe.
I
S-
will. I've been trying to find them for a year now. Like, not that I can't find them, but I'm used to being able to get a lot of this stuff at a wholesale price.
it,
So I
Yeah.
haven't, and it's funny because like last year I was like, all right, like a shipment, we had got some, we sold them, whatever. And I was like, you know what, the next batch, I'm gonna keep a couple. Never came back in.
Yeah.
I was like, dang it, man, and that makes me regret selling. Like I had some big captive born Halmaharas for a while that I was trying to breed, didn't have any luck, so eventually I sold them, and I was like,
Yeah.
dang it, man, if I had them now, the way we're keeping them outside and
Yeah.
stuff with these other morphs, oh,
Yeah. I may or may not have tried it, and that's all I can say.
mm, how long though?
Not that long ago.
Yeah. Well, I meant saying like, how long did you try?
Oh, how long did I try? Until it didn't work.
so say someone was doesn't live in Florida and they wanted to try, how would you get to an xanthic home to a northern in indoor conditions?
Ugh.
I would, I thought about stuff like this. I would do a similar style to what we're doing, but just like a large, you could do like a custom made cage, or just a really, really large, because a really big glass cage would be very expensive. So you could do like what some people do for tegus indoors, just a large 4 foot by 4 foot, or, if you can go bigger enclosure, similar to what we built for our skinks,
Mhm.
and just have and just have them set up and paired up, kind of like what we're doing, and just keep them together like that. And then I
I'm
would
watching.
do personally like a halogen basking bulb, something that provides a lot of UV and heat as well. Because if you have a large enclosure with a lot of airflow, you can get them really hot, and these guys do like to get real hot
Yeah.
when they can. And then with
Yeah.
the humidity, because I know the Halmaharas in particular are very annoying. You could do like a big humid hide area where
Yeah.
the animal can get in and out, but also the holes small enough to where it's going to retain that very well, that humidity. That's kind of what we do for a lot of animals now, humid hides, even for things like leopard geckos, man. You think like people think, oh, dry. It's like, nah, they like some humidity. Even some of the or Euromastics. I've talked to breeders in the past, and they're like, yeah, just give it a humid hide if it's having a shedding problem. You would never have thought that for a
Yeah.
Euromastics. Because they'll get in there when they need the humidity, and then they'll get out when they're good. So they could regulate themselves, do like a humid hide. You could do a very large water bowl, something you can get in essentially if it wants to. But my favorite are the humid hides, and that's what I would recommend, and that's what I would try out.
Yeah. Yeah. I pretty much agree with everything you said. it's all trial and error, you know, like it's
Mhm.
about just making sure that you're on top of your animals, that you know, you're making sure that they're getting along. I yeah, it's just watching them and making sure that they have places to stay away from each other and places to be introduced to each other.
Yep. And keep an eye, like Yoshi's saying, keep an eye on them. What works for you in this area might not work for someone else. So just
Mhm.
because the way I'm doing it works for me doesn't mean it's gonna work for you. Or, so it's like play around with stuff, see what works for you, and then just, keep refining that. Because it's like, you know, like it's very different where I am versus where Yoshi is, even though we're in the same state.
Yeah.
Things work differently. These animals behave differently in these different areas. So you got to
Mhm.
go with what works for you, and the only way to do that is some trial and error. I'm actually trying to think
So,
of an example of like some animals like that that I can't think of right now. So go ahead.
what's something you guys are thinking of, like a new species that you guys have your eye on, or you're not adding anymore yet?
Um, I would like to get some of the blotched. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think those
blotch,
would be great outside.
singlebacks, all of that stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know
all of
about
that
the
stuff.
blotch. At least not for me. It doesn't get cold enough for long because when I actually went to Johnny's place
Jealous.
and shout out Johnny, thanks for having me. And his talking to him at least about the blotch, and he's like, these guys actually kind of hibernate instead of brewmate. They shut down for real. So they
Mhm.
need to be cold for an extended period of time, which we do not get. We might get a couple cold days here and there, cold nights, but nothing that they would need. I think it would be easier for us to breed shinglebacks than the blotch, unless I set up like a room or something for them, or even like I've heard people doing it like in a refrigerator, but that always scares me. I've never done
Yeah, I
anything
don't
like
wanna do
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff scares me. Like, yeah,
Now,
so
aren't those both 50 though?
I'm sorry.
Like I guess it depends on the species of shingleback, but both don't most of those you get down to about the 50s. Same with blotches.
50s is fine. 50s we can do. Blotches you probably need that in the 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need it colder well, like you said, some shinglebacks are more southern. They like it cooler, but some like the ones like in Perth in that region, I think in the 50s you'd be fine.
Mhm.
The thing that would worry me more is the humidity of keeping them outdoors here in Florida for the shinglebacks.
Correct.
So that's I mean, yeah, that would worry me for those guys.
I think the
And
first step is figuring out these morphs.
Getting them.
Yeah, well,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
figuring out these morphs, and then once that stuff goes going, it's like, okay, now what else can I mess with?
don't you think
Yeah,
over
exactly.
time
And I
they
know
would
there are
adapt?
people, maybe if they're raised there, but like it's hard, man, because trying something out like that with an animal that's worth what, $10,000,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
like
hard.
that's tough, dude. You know, I probably would try to, if I ever got some shinglebacks, I probably would try to do something like Johnny would do. And Johnny kind of does what we do essentially with the large, wooden enclosures with a lot of airflow. And, he keeps them nice and hot in a certain area. But maybe, I don't know, maybe have those in a specific shed just for being able to cool animals really cold. But
Hmm.
that's not something I'm not going to pick up anytime soon. I'm going to
Yeah.
focus on what I have. I always like to add new species, man. I'm an addict. We have so many different species. It's crazy. But there's, well, I don't know if there's some like a species that I've been like, oh my God. Oh, I would love to have like diamond pythons. I fucking love those things.
I have
Oh,
them.
I know. I just got some eggs for my carpet, so
I
good.
know
I'll
mine are
swap some of
gonna
those out for you.
yeah, mine are gonna, I think she's gonna lay soon. Yeah.
Nice.
You got
Yeah, I
eggs
thought I
last
was
year
like,
too, right?
oh, me or you? Or Yoshi?
Uh, Yoshi, he got some with his. I don't know about. I didn't know you had him till now.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
got
Yeah,
some. Yeah, like a year and a half ago. Like not this past season. The season before is when I had them. Yeah.
yeah, and I had mine also for like about 2-ish years now. But the
Hmm.
first time they laid eggs, all the eggs went bad. So, but they're cool, man. I love carpet pythons. They're some of my favorite snakes in the world. I would like to. Ooh, you know what? I would like to get some green tree monitors because we're about to start building the outdoor enclosure for the black dragon because he's just like 4 feet now. He's so
Yeah.
big, and like we're gonna have these two big empty PVC, tall cages. That'd be perfect for some tree monitors. And I love green trees, especially captive green trees. Man, they're amazing. They're so docile, so smart. That'd be a very cool animal to add.
Hmm.
Is there any restrictions on Florida in those, or
No, yeah,
Not
not
yet.
yet, not yet. Mm-mm.
I wouldn't think they would. They stay pretty small, but you never
Yeah,
know.
but then they make the excuse that like, oh, we can't tell the difference between an Asian water monitor and a green tree monitor, so which is all monitors are banned. That's what they try to pull on it with iguanas. Like we can't tell the difference between green iguanas and spiny tail iguanas and these iguanas and rhino iguanas. So
I'm
let's ban
pretty
them
sure they.
all.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there was talks about doing that monitor thing a few years ago.
Yeah, and
Like
it's gonna
just
keep going
Varanus in
back.
general. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's more a lack of education on their part, not ours, though. Like,
Yeah.
I mean that's more that they just don't want us to have anything. That's just a way to like justify it to like, oh, these things we can't tell what this is, so let's just ban them all. Like they want to ban everything now. They don't want us to have anything besides a dog and a cat. Even that.
yeah, depending on the place, I think they don't want us to have those either.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so, how do we keep growing the reptiles more mainstream that way, in a way that will help more people liking them, less people that are going to be want to get rid of them?
Hmm.
Just keep promoting them social media, like we do.
I think that it's like twofold because you have to make them cute and accessible so that way they can be trendy, but also at the same time be very transparent about what our goals of ethics are so that way people understand the responsibility of what it means when they get that cute and trendy animal. I know that specifically with blue tongue, like blue tongues, whenever I speak to anybody about blue tongues at a reptile show, it's usually people that just get introduced to them. And I always make it a point. I'm like, bro, like this I call it the superior pet lizard. Like it's a way better pet than a bearded dragon. Like a bearded dragon, it's just gonna sit over here on you, but a blue tongue, it's going to be so much more personable. And then I'll go and I'll take one out, and you tickle under its chin, and then it'll take the tongue out, and then you put it down, and then you just start petting it in front of them, and then you're like, yeah, they're very personable. They really get to know you. They whatever. So you just have to make it a learning experience for the person, but also make it like entertaining for them, so that way they could really understand the animal.
Yeah, I agree. I think education, exposure, like those two things, like how you gonna like something if you don't know about it,
Hmm.
and also like outreach, not just seeing these things in social media on your iPhone or TikTok, Instagram, whatever, YouTube, but also seeing them in person, like Yoshi was saying, and not just in reptile shows, but going to schools. Like I know there's a lot of people who do that who get hired to bring animals to
Hmm.
schools or parties, kids events, stuff like that's what we need to do more of, all those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I offer it. I have a thing for it on my website, and I do get a lot of inquiries about it. A lot of them don't work out, but like my sister's a teacher, so we are trying to like work out stuff like that, so I can start taking some animals to the shows. I met a teacher in at one of the Jacksonville Repticons, and he was telling me that he's like, he just started like a herp club in school, and I'm about to donate. I'm waiting for more animals to be produced, but I'm going to donate a blue tongue for their club, so that way the kids can really learn about the animals and stuff like that. And you gotta give a little bit, give a little of yourself, so that way and understand that it just, not every aspect of this has to be like a business and profitable. It's just like you gotta give back, so that way people can better understand these animals and have exposure to them.
Yeah,
Well,
and
also in the long run, though, that can plant the seed in multiple generations of kids that might their parents might end up coming to buy one from you too in the long run. Also,
Yeah, sure, for sure.
I mean, not that it's the goal, but it's nice when it works out that way.
Yeah.
Um, so with like reptile shipping, a lot of people use FedEx. Do you guys like one better than the other, like UPS, FedEx? It seems like the actual FedEx buildings around me are nicer, but that's just
um
creation.
I've primarily used FedEx. I know that you guys have Manny, you guys have used UPS now for a while.
well, right now we're mostly just shipping with FedEx.
Okay.
Mostly not because it's mostly because our nearest UPS, the essentially the ship center or hub, whatever, it was like close to the public, and it closed a while ago to the public. So like we can't go and drop off animals anymore.
Gotcha.
Instead, they would like have to come pick it up at like 1 p.m., which is
Mhm.
I don't like that stuff being in the hot truck all day.
No.
I'd rather take it myself. So we've been doing FedEx, but they're both good, and they're both stuff gets lost sometimes. Like it's really annoying. I've noticed it less with UPS. They especially during the holidays, and I think that's just because they're a bigger company. Now, the only thing that's super annoying about UPS is their hubs. So when it's a little cold or it's a little hot, or somebody just wants to pick up from the hub from UPS, they're not as good as FedEx's, where FedEx has it kind of feels like everywhere, and like their hours are like the same, right? While the UPS ones, some reason, will open up at 1 p.m. sometimes. It'll open up at 2 p.m. This one over here opens up at 4 p.m. You're like, what the what?
Yeah.
Like, so it's like I don't like to ship to those because it's like, what is it gonna do? Just hang out in the truck outside all day in the heat until it
Yeah.
open? Like I don't. So it's like you got to be careful with that with the hubs for UPS. But other than that, I did like UPS a little bit more. Just
Yeah.
because it would just seem like there was a
Gotcha.
little bit less delays, and they were a little bit better about it than FedEx is.
Yeah, and I've also heard that there's been, I mean, I at least I read it on, scrolling through Facebook, that apparently like FedEx has been closing more and more of their hubs. So
Mm.
things are definitely changing recently in the hobby with this kind of stuff.
I
We
think
just need
that's
Amazon to start shipping. And they thought about it, right? Like crazy enough, like I know they're in talks to do that
Oh
with like
fuck.
around COVID. I know because I know
Yeah.
one of the companies who was in talks with them to start doing it, but I think they like decided to focus on just, which honestly is probably for the best for them to just focus on their own products and their own stuff instead of, you know. But that would have been the best, man. If Amazon was letting us ship. Oh my god, next day delivery, or not next day. Sorry,
Same day
same day
delivery.
delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh god.
it'd be nice if there's that big of a network, and they definitely have it.
Yeah.
So, have you guys seen the movie Idiocracy?
No.
Okay, never mind. Then I won't do that. I was gonna ask like what you guys thought if the world turns into that, if reptiles will still be needed or used. But
Is it like post-apocalyptic
uh,
world?
a lot of it's like the population kind of turns dumber.
Oh.
Dumber than it is now? Damn, that's crazy.
Oh fuck.
Well, in the shoes they picked in that, they picked Crocs as because they thought they were so ugly no one would wear them, and now everyone wears them.
They are ugly, but they're comfy.
I'm still holding out. I've never owned a single pair of Crocs. I refuse.
Me neither, but they're comfy. Cannot deny that they're not comfy. They're very comfy.
With me, they don't make them in my size because I got big fat ass feet, so I'm limited. But uh, so to wrap it up, I guess, how do you want to be remembered as a breeder? What mark do you want Modern Reptile to leave on the hobby?
Damn. Manny
Yeah.
first.
Ew. Nah, I was gonna say
No,
you first. You're the special
me?
guest.
No. Damn. I don't, all right. I'm going to be very transparent. I've been asking myself a very similar thing recently. Like, what not only what am I doing, but why am I doing it? Because on one hand, like, yeah, I'd love to be put in a position where I can make this work financially and all that stuff, but what does that even mean? Like, yeah, it gives me some kind of freedom. It takes me away from having a boss or whatever. Or nobody's in charge of me except for me. But like, just in general, what does it mean for the stuff that I do? With throughout my journey when I had my music career and stuff like that, like most of that is like ego driven. Most of that is like, I want this, I want that, and now I'm in a part of my life where I'm thinking about my own, like what is my place in this whole thing, and so I don't quite know exactly how to answer that yet. I'm still in the process of trying to figure that out. I would like for people to just remember, like the podcast that I do, and that we had the hard conversations and laughed and we were fun and stuff like that. And the animals that I produced, like in their own identity, were special. Like, I'd love for people to appreciate them and stuff like that. And I just hope that with everything that I'm doing, it maybe people can have open conversations about how to progress maybe some of the keeping either standards or just progress the ideals. I think that being that I wasn't raised in this hobby, I didn't grow up with it, I think I have a little bit of a different perspective on things, and maybe I might see things just a little bit differently, and maybe I could bestow some of those perspectives on to people. I guess that's that.
For me, I would like to be remembered for like specifically sharing the love that I have for these animals. And I one of my favorite things that we do is the YouTube and the social media, because and like, rarely we'll sometimes do like educational shows, and I love that the most, because I am exposing these people to something that they didn't know existed before, and how amazing all these animals are, not just the blue tongue skinks, everything that we work with, and a bunch of things that we don't, so that's what I would love to be around for sharing like my love for these animals, and hopefully passing it on to a bunch of other people as well. And also not just creating beautiful animals, but ethically as well. A lot of the stuff we've been doing lately with these outdoor cages, we didn't need to do that. We didn't need to build these, large outdoor cages. I could have just kept them how I kept them. It would have been fine. It worked out great. They've been breeding. They've been surviving. They've been breeding. But like a while ago, I was like, I love these animals, so I need to give them the best life that they could possibly have, and hopefully other people seeing me and others do that makes them want to do that, not just bare minimum anymore. I was raised. I didn't keep reptiles as a kid. I got like Yoshi. I got into this when I was like 18 years old, and everything I learned was, oh, bare minimum. At least in
Yeah.
this size enclosure, at least with this, at least with that. Like, nah, I don't want to do things like that. anymore. I'm not doing things like that anymore. I want to give them the best life that they can possibly have. So those are some of those things I want people to remember. Not necessarily remember me for, but what I did.
Yeah, and it's a hard question to really answer and really know, because who knows, in 10 years your answer might change. Your
Mm-hmm.
path can always go one way, and then who knows, you end up opening Yoshi's educational center for Brettles pythons, or I don't know. You need a better name than that one, definitely. But
Yeah. No, I'll take it. That's what we're doing. That's the project.
all right. Well, I wanted to thank you guys for coming on, and I appreciate it. And best place for anyone to find you, Yoshi, Modern Reptile.
Yeah, Modern Reptile Shop on pretty much all the social medias, and then the Reptiles with podcast on every streaming platform and YouTube.
Perfect. And Manny's at Tiki's Geckos everywhere.
Yep. Tiki's Geckos, TIKIS Geckos, all one word. We
Yeah.
got all the social media platforms, same name, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, all that stuff. We got it. So
You can also find Manny in my heart.
oh, forever.
Oh, you guys have a great rest of your night. And I hope everyone watching also